The frost-laden wind howled across the encampment as Arya Fenlo secured the final perimeter sensor. 3 months on Vextora 4, and she still wasn't accustomed to the bone-chilling nights that descended upon the wilderness like a predator's embrace. The survey mission had been routine until the local fauna, massive wolf-like creatures the xenobiologists called Vextorans, began circling closer each night. Arya heard them first, small, pitiful whimpers cutting through the darkness. Her hand instinctively moved to the plasma pistol at her hip as she activated her helmet's thermal scanner. Two heat signatures, smaller than the adults she'd observed, huddled against a fallen log 50 meters from camp. Cubs, alone, trembling. Every protocol screamed at her to ignore them. Non-interference with indigenous species was carved into Colonial Directive Alpha 7, but Arya had never been particularly good at following rules when living creatures suffered. She approached slowly, her translator attempting to modulate soothing frequencies. The cubs, no larger than earth dogs, backed against the log, their 6 eyes reflecting her headlamp like tiny moons. Their fur, a bioluminescent silver blue, flickered with fear patterns. One had a gash along its flank, oozing dark blood. "Easy," Arya whispered, knowing they couldn't understand her words but hoping her tone conveyed safety. She removed her thermal blanket, extending it slowly. The wounded cub collapsed and its sibling released a distressed chirp that tore at something primal in Arya's chest. The decision made itself. 20 minutes later, both cubs were inside her tent, the injured one bandaged with her medkit's xenobiological safe gauze. They devoured the protein rations she offered, apparently universal hunger transcended species, and curled against her sleeping bag, their breathing gradually steadying. Arya sat watch, her rifle across her lap, knowing she'd crossed a line but unable to regret it. She must have dozed, because the next thing she registered was movement. Both cubs had risen, their ears, all 4 pairs, swiveling toward the tent entrance. The wounded one limped forward, positioning itself between Arya and the tent flap. Its sibling followed, and together they released low, rumbling growls that vibrated through the ground. Arya grabbed her weapon, heart hammering. Through the tense, translucent fabric, she saw massive shadows converging on the camp. 5. No, 7 adult Vextorans, each standing nearly 3 meters at the shoulder. The lead creature was enormous, its fur marked with the silver scars of countless battles, its eyes burning with intelligence that made Arya's breath catch. Catharn Stonepaw had tracked the human's scent for hours, fury and fear warring in his chest. The outsiders had been tolerated, observed from distance, but when his brother's cubs vanished during the night hunt, tolerance evaporated. His pack moved as one, surrounding the human's dwelling, ready to tear it apart. But then he heard them, Kiva and Ren, his brother's orphaned young, growling with the fierce determination of warriors despite their size. Catharn froze, his tactical mind struggling to process the scene before him. The cubs stood at the entrance, defending the human, not cowering, not crying. Defending. Arya emerged slowly, hands raised, cubs flanking her legs like palace guards. She'd never felt more exposed or more certain she was about to die. The massive alpha, it could only be the alpha, locked eyes with her, and she saw something that shattered every xenobiological assumption she'd held. Recognition, calculation, question. Through her helmet's translator, she heard only static attempting to parse the alpha's vocalizations. But she didn't need translation. She carefully knelt, placing her rifle on the ground, and gestured to the bandaged cub. The message was clear. I helped them. Catharn approached, each step measured, his pack tense behind him. The human reeked of fear sweat, yet she stood firm, protecting cubs not her own, against predators that could end her in seconds. The wounded cub, Kiva, limped forward, chirping the recognition call for pack friend. Something ancient stirred in Catharn's consciousness. The old stories spoke of pack bonds transcending blood, of honor recognizing honor regardless of form. He had dismissed them as myths until now. He stopped mere inches from the human, towering over her fragile form. She didn't flinch. The cubs pressed against her legs, their body language declaring alliance. Catharn extended his massive head, touching his muzzle to the human's outstretched palm. the gesture of trust between pack members. Arya felt tears she didn't know she'd been holding spill down her cheeks. The alpha's fur was surprisingly soft beneath her fingers, warm and alive. Behind him, the other Vextorans relaxed their aggressive postures, several making sounds she could only interpret as approval. Catharn stepped back, releasing a complex series of vocalizations. The cubs responded immediately, but neither moved from Arya's side. He tried again, more forcefully. Still they remained, looking between the alpha and the human, with obvious distress. Understanding dawned on both species simultaneously. The cubs had chosen. In Vextoran culture, such bonds were sacred, unbreakable once declared. Catharn saw his brother's cubs, orphaned by the territorial wars, finding protection with an alien. Arya saw two frightened children who'd claimed her as family. As dawn broke over Vextora 4, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet, Catharn made a decision that would echo through both their species' histories. He vocalized the pack acceptance, then turned to his warriors, commanding them to lower their aggression. Arya watched the massive creatures settle around her camp, forming a protective perimeter. The alpha met her eyes once more, and though no words were exchanged, the pack was clear. The human had honored the cubs, and the pack would honor the human. When Arya's research team arrived at dawn, they found their xenobiologists surrounded by apex predators, two cubs asleep in her lap, and an expression of wonder on her face that no amount of scientific training could contain. Humanity had made first contact not through diplomacy or technology, but through the oldest language in the universe, compassion, and the Vex Taurans had answered with the oldest law: honor recognizes honor, regardless of species.